Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Cyber Preserve. And today we are going to talk about a very important informative topic, which is the missing art of securing data. And this particular topic is not just important for the newbies, but also for the individuals who are currently working in cybersecurity, but still they are lacking those basic skills to understand why we are playing with data, why we are actually securing data. And to take up this session today, we have the wonderful Shrutirupa Banerjiee with us, and I'm really excited. But I'm really excited about it, and I'll just move to Shruti now. So Shruti, please start the session. I'm so excited for this session today, and go on, introduce yourself and start your session.
Okay, thank you so much, Astha. Even I am excited, to present a session over here. So I'll share the screen first, and then we can begin. I think you'll have to enable screen share.
Oh, sure. Just give me a second. Can you do that?
Yes, I can. Is this screen visible?
Yes, perfect.
Start then. So today we are going to talk about the missing art of securing data. And before that, let me introduce myself. I work at Qualys. I work as a web application security analyst under WAF research at Qualys. I am InfoSec Girls Pune chapter lead. I am also one of the lead for Women Who Code. I research independently on blockchain and smart contracts. And I am also a speaker. I have spoken in conferences such as B-Side Singapore, RootConf, OWASP, C-Sides. So today's agenda is we'll be answering two questions. Why are we talking about security, and what should your approach be? And why am I talking about all this? You'll get to know about it. And this is completely a non-technical session. So don't expect any technical terms from my end right now. We'll just try to understand what am I talking about right now? Like these two questions, which we will be answering right now. We'll try to understand. And as Astha said, that it is for those who are, who want to get into cybersecurity and understand what are they doing, what is it all about. So we'll try to understand that. So let's start. So why do we need security? This is one very basic question. Like most of the people get into security, they start doing bug hunting, they get jobs, they become security consultants, they become security analysts, and they start working, but they don't have any idea like what are they doing, why are they doing. I did ask some questions, and these are some of the answers that I have got. Like they find it fancy and cool. Yes, I have heard people saying that hacking is cool. They don't know what they are doing, but it really makes them feel very excited about it. This next thing is they dropped in by accident, which is quite okay. That is not at all a problem. Some people said that they want to maintain privacy, they want to protect passwords, which are completely fine. These answers are not at all wrong. It depends from perspective to perspective. You do not have to be right. There is no right answer to this question. But what we'll be talking about right now is a sense of responsibility that we should be having if we are into this domain. So for that, let us first understand what is our aim. Like what are we trying to achieve? Like why are we doing security? Why we have to perform some vulnerability scan, find some bugs, report it to the clients? Why are we doing that? What is the aim behind it? The first thing, confidentiality. You must have heard of the CIA triad, and of course I'm explaining that. It's a bit of technical thing, but I won't get into too much thing. This is the same thing that you have to understand. This is a very important thing that you need to know. So confidentiality is the state of keeping your data private. As somebody answered, as people say, they want their passwords, their data to be private. It should only be seen by the people, to the recipient only, to whom they are sending it. We encrypt our data to maintain this privacy. So if you're sending a message to someone, you are encrypting that data with a key. Encryption is a two-way function, and if we can encrypt the data, we can decrypt that data too. So this is a basic thing that you should be knowing. Second is integrity. State of having the data unaltered. Like if I'm sending hi, how are you to someone, the message should be hi, how are you, that person should be receiving. It should not be changed to something else. So for that, we create hash of the data to achieve this. And hashing is a one-way function. And if you create a hash of a data, you cannot receive it, reverse it. So there is this difference between hashing and encryption that I have observed people are unaware of. I have seen people who are into security, they're having around 2 years of experience, and they still don't know what is integrity, what is encryption, what is confidentiality, what is the difference between encryption and hashing. They would always say that they are just decrypting the hash, which is a wrong term that you're using. If you're having around 2 years or 3 years of experience, you're supposed to know that, because that is the basic thing which answers one of the basic question, like why are we securing our data? What is the thing that we are trying to achieve? And if you don't know that and how are we doing that, then what is the, like, why are you even doing that? Like if you don't know the major reason behind it. The third thing is availability. So if I'm sending my data to someone, that someone should be receiving the data. Of course, that someone should receive the data and should be able to see the message. So for that, we look for failover strategies. We are not getting into that. We are not at all getting into that. This is the CIA triad. This is the basic definition which people are unaware of. I have seen people answering giving some different kind of answers, some weird answers to, why are you securing the data? Why are you doing that? You're unaware of why are you doing that? It really looks like some of the people, some of the beginners mostly would reply that hacking is cool, and that is why they don't even reply. They don't even say that they are trying to secure data. They're just hacking it. And then they're responding to the client, or if they have found a bug in any kind of application, they are replying, they are just getting bounties for that. That's it. They don't even know what are they doing. The problem that lies over here is you are finding a vulnerability. That is a very good thing. It means you're really good in technical stuff. So you're understanding what is happening, hopefully. And when you are reporting that vulnerability, you also have to understand what your responsibility is. Just because the term hacking is cool or finding a vulnerability makes you extra cool or elite, that does not mean that you don't have any responsibility. Since the developers are having some kind of responsibility, if they are having some sense of responsibility to secure the data and they are unaware of it, we as security researchers are responsible to let them know where the problem lies. People have this tendency, which I have observed, to say that they have found a vulnerability and this is very cool. They have found RCE, remote code execution. They have found they could perform account takeover. Everything is fine and it's amazing. But have you told the developer how to mitigate it? Have you told the developer where the exact problem is and what do they need to know? Because not all developers are aware of it, and they are trying to secure the data, and you having that knowledge of understanding how is that vulnerability happening, how you are able to exploit it, you have that, you should be having that responsibility to let them know. So here you understood that why are you securing data, then you are understanding what your responsibility should be. But is that it to it? Is it? No, of course. There are a lot of things. I'm not covering everything, but there are non-repudiation, authentication, authorization, and so many, accountability. I have not mentioned all the words over here because I do want people who are beginners, especially, to search about all these things, to understand what they are doing, why are they doing, what are these terms, what extra terms that they have to come across, that what extra terminologies that they should be knowing. Like just hacking someone's account or finding a vulnerability or getting a bounty of some $1,000 is amazing, of course. But are you aware of what you are doing? Why are you doing? What is your ultimate goal? Like here we are to secure it, right? We are here to secure the data. People are not even aware of it. Now, if I have observed other things also, like if people are aware of what are they trying to secure or what they want to secure, they don't have a proper approach to it, like what their approach should be. And I'll be giving an example for making this question, understandable to you. But before that, uh, whenever you have been given, if you're a security consultant, suppose you're a beginner, you're an intern right now, or just a fresher who have been given a URL or an APK file or any application, what your approach should be. One thing that you have to ask yourself, like why are we doing this? What, why, and how? These are the three questions which are very important. What is the most common thing that we mostly look for? And when we are aware of the thing, what we are doing, we understand how we are doing. We try to understand, but still we don't do it completely because we are unaware of the reason behind it. Like that, this is where you need to know the why factor. Like, why are you doing it? Exactly the way I explained, why do we need to secure our data? Why are you doing it? What is it? Why? Where? There should be some curiosity in yourself to answer these questions, and then you'll start Googling yourself. So here I'll give you a slight example of what your approach should be and why your approach should be like this. So the first thing that you have ever learned is enumeration, right? Whenever you're into cybersecurity, or if you're preparing for OSCP, whatever you are trying to prepare for, you have always been asked to do enumeration. Enumeration is the key. Then what are we enumerating? So as a beginner, as a fresher, as an intern, what are you enumerating? Are you enumerating a web application? Have you been provided with a web application? Or is it a mobile application? If it is a mobile application, is it an APK file or an IPA file? APK Android, IPA iOS, right? API, is it API? Is it a hardware or IoT, or what is it? What else? What, I cannot put everything over here. Even I am not aware of every kind of application, right? We all are learning. We all are in the learning stage. So you have to first of all answer yourself. Of course, if you have been given a URL, you'll understand it seems, of course, it is a web application. If you have been provided an APK file, of course, it is related to Android. It is an APK file, and this is what we are supposed to do. This, that. This is the basic thing. The next thing you have to understand, how does it work? What does it do? Whichever application is it, you have to understand. You just cannot start finding for a vulnerability in first go. You have been provided with an application. Just suppose you are doing something, you have downloaded a very new application, suppose anything it is, suppose, and you just don't start doing anything. Suppose it is Instagram. You are very new to Instagram and you are just looking for what to do. So before uploading any pictures, you do look for what is it all about, what else can we do, at least the basic things you would understand, right? Like what are the basic things. Even here, if you have been given an application, apart from logging into the application, provided that it has some credentials to log into, you have to understand how is it working, what is it doing, how is it sending data, what is it sending, like what are the technologies used behind, why is it working like this, why is it not working in a different way. I'll give you an example. Of course, after understanding that, we have to know if there are any attacks, known attacks related to that technology that have been used. Again, you should not just start attacking or finding vulnerability at one go. You will have to understand, is it vulnerable, is it the vulnerable version, how has it affected the product before or the application before, what were the steps, do I need to perform the same steps, do I need to perform something different. These are certain things that you have to ask yourselves. You need to when you are answering these questions to yourself, you'll understand what to be done, because not everyone is having the same kind of approach. This is one kind of approach that I follow, and I think this is a very generic one. This is how mostly people understand the famous, the people who are like having around 15, 20, 10 years of experience in security, and if you ask them to find a vulnerability, of course they will look for what is it all about. They will take very less time because they have experience, they have more knowledge, but they will be all aware of what is it using, what it can be, what is it all about, and then they will find something. Being a beginner, you will take time. You might take 1 day, 2 day, a lot of time just for enumerating that application. And there is no problem with that. There is not at all a problem. If you are taking time, of course, if you are in a company and there's a deadline, I'm talking about practicing it at home. Suppose if you are solving hack the box or if you are doing mulhub, take some time for understanding. How are we doing it? What are we doing? If you have to follow a walkthrough, understand, read different walkthroughs. What are they doing and how are they doing it? Let us understand from an example. This will be clear, I hope, that what I am talking about right now. It's a very bizarre session, if I would say, like out of something different that I'm talking about. It's not related to any technical stuff, but this is what I realized recently, that people should be talking about it. Like why are they doing it and what they should be doing it, what they should be doing. So suppose you have a URL. So clearly it is a web application. And I'm giving web application because an example of web application because most of the people are into web application and it is quite easier to understand as compared to other applications. And regarding technical stuff, and if you have any questions, then we'll talk about that later as well. So suppose you have been given this URL. So what your approach will be or how you're going to enumerate. Like what are the things we have to look for? The first thing is, what is the application about? If this is a URL, suppose you have been given URL facebook.com, right? So you'll first of all try to understand what is that application all about? What is it doing? How is it working? What am I doing? There is a post section, like you can post something. Okay, there's a chat section. What is it doing? How is it sending that chat to somebody else? What is the technology used behind? What else is it using? Okay, there's JavaScript. Then what is the technology they're using in the backend? Like, is it PHP? Is it ASP.NET? Or is it Java or anything else? Any idea if they're using any proxy servers, or if there is, or is it Nginx, Apache? What is it? You have to understand. How are you going to understand? You will enumerate. You will send a request. You will see the response. You will see the response headers. You will see the request headers. Okay, in case of a web application, this is what you're going to do. You will see what is happening over there. What kind of information is being sent to the server? Is the server having any other information? What else? Is the server giving any information that is useful to us? Just note it down. You do not have to perform anything right now. Just understand, if it is facebook.com and there's question mark search equal to your search for someone or something, then see how is it going. Is it a get request or is it a post request? What happens? How is it doing it? And if it is a get request, what is the response? What am I getting as response from the server? What is the server? You'll see a lot of details in the response section, a lot of things. This session is mostly for people who are a bit aware of Burpsuit, also using Burpsuit. They have found a bit of, they have done some bug hunting also. So this is for them as well, who are finding bugs but are still unaware of what are they doing, why are they doing, and how is it even happening. Many time it happens that people don't even understand. It has happened to me before. Like, I found something and I don't even know how did I find it. I just found it. That's it. Then I'll again have to go through what had happened. How did I do it? You'll have to understand what happened that that made the server respond in a different way, make the application, respond in a different way. So these are certain aspects that you have to look for. Again, if there is an application, is there an input field? So now we know that if we have an application over there, and after enumerating, understanding what the technology has been used, how is it functioning, the next thing is what are the different input fields. What happens most of the time, which I have observed people doing, is if they have found an input field, they directly go for cross-site scripting. They would just put the entire payload and just expect it to work. Or they don't even look around if it is reflecting anything or not, what is happening over there. They would just use Burpsuit intruder and then put all the payloads and just see if it works out, it works out, you're found XSS, otherwise it's not vulnerable. So if there is an input field, is it reflecting something? So in your input field, you'll just put some random data, like something that the source code will not be having, like your name. Hopefully your name will not be there, or you can put something like, I don't know, you can use dead or something like that. And you can see if it is getting reflected. And if it gets reflected, you can try to see what kind of special characters it is taking into consideration. By that I mean, like, are the characters getting encoded or they're reflecting something? If they're reflecting, and how is it, working at this, you can see the source code and you can understand what is happening over there. So if you see that it is accepting the characters over there, you can try for the payload, the basic payload, and see what is happening. Is it accepting that? And if it is accepting, then of course it is vulnerable. It seems to be vulnerable, right? Again, another thing, that, like, does my input go into the sink? Like, you have to understand what source and sink are right now. I'm not going to explain what is it, but sometimes, like especially for XSS, as I'm giving an example of web application, so I'm talking about it over here. Since it is a web application, and if you see that your data is getting reflected on the screen, but you cannot see it in the source code, you can actually inspect the element, you can debug the code and see what is happening. Is it getting into the sink? So this is another thing that you can do. These are some of the approaches. I'm not telling you about all the approaches. I'm just telling what other things that you can do and why you should be doing that. So the thing is, why did you try for XSS? Of course, JavaScript. That is why. But why are you not putting the entire payload at first go? Because you're trying to understand if it is reflecting something. If you see that it is encoding the characters and you got an idea that it is already securing everything, then why would you even waste your time putting an entire payload, right? If you understand the concept behind why is it happening, you will save so much of your time. Maybe it is not vulnerable to XSS, it might be vulnerable to some other vulnerability. You'll focus on something like that, something more important. It may be vulnerable, it may be not. Of course, an application is never 100% secure. You have to put that much amount of time, and if you're willing to put that much amount of time, you have to enumerate, you have to ask yourself, like, why is it happening like this? Why is it not happening like this? And how is it happening? Then what other things that I can do? Like, these are certain things that you'll have to keep answering yourself. Again, is the application even using a database? There has been situations where I have observed people, they have the URL. Maybe I'll take example of this and then explain the slide as well. Like the second URL, if you see, is id equal to 1. So most of the time, whenever we see there is id equal to 1, we just put single quote and all the payload and see it is vulnerable to SQL injection. It does not always have to be that. Of course, it may be not. You're not sure about it. But again, just, if you're not aware of it, you have not enumerated well, if you have not understood properly, if it is using database or not, if it is vulnerable to SQL injection or not, why would you even use SQL map or any other tool? Why would you again waste your time? Maybe it is a small application that you are testing and it is not even using a database. Maybe it is just using credentials from some file. It is just extracting those credentials from that file. Like it's an XML file and it has just credentials over there. Nothing else, no database. I have seen people creating that kind of application. They're not using database. If I'm creating a small application, why would I even use a database for that? I just need 2 or 3 credentials over there and I would just use some other kind of format. You just need a key value pair over there, right? You don't need an entire database for that. Maybe this application is that kind of application. It is that small. And when you're not aware and if you're not sure, or if you understood that it's not using any database, then why would you even waste your time finding vulnerability related to SQL? Of course, related to database. Why SQL injections then? Rather, if you found it is storing its information, storing the credentials in an XML file, then you would try to see that maybe if you can exploit that. Of course, you can try exploiting that. Before exploiting, of course, you'll have to understand if it is vulnerable. Again, you'll have to enumerate. How do you do that? How do you find if it is vulnerable? You see some weird responses. And based on that weird response, you try to understand what is happening. You just don't start putting the entire payload and see if you're getting any result. You're wasting your time, the power, the processing power that it may take. Of course, it's not taking that much amount of power or time, but why would you do that? Why would you waste your time? Again, what kind of resources are they looking for? I have also observed, even when I was new to security, I was also unaware of what is happening over here. Like, what is the difference between these two URLs? Why there is page equal to hello.php in one example and in one URL, and why there is id equal to 1? Have you ever questioned that to yourself? Why there is a chance that I might find LFI in the first URL, but not in the second? You may find, I don't know, I'm not sure. Now it completely depends upon how is it taking resources. From the first example, it is quite clear that it is taking a file, hello.php. And again, it is clear that it is using PHP in the backend. So of course you can try fetching some other kind of files. That is your approach should be. Like, this is how people think of, right? That if there is a file name, let me see if I can fetch any other file. Of course you will not just put a single quote and start looking for SQL injection again, just because there is page equal to and there is a thing called get based SQL injection, and you just start doing it. No, you won't. I have seen people doing that, and it's completely okay also if you're doing it, but you have to understand why you are doing it. You did it once, then you answered, you questioned yourself, then you found the answer, and then you're taking care of it. Then you're telling others, like, why are you doing it? What is the main aim behind that? Again, id equal to 1. Of course, it is quite understandable that it is fetching some id, and based on that it is giving us the result. So maybe there's a chance that it is using database. Not sure, but maybe. But during your enumeration, you'll understand if it is using anything like that. So the thing is, whenever you're looking into looking at a URL, you're understanding, you're trying to understand that what is it looking for. Again, the example that I gave is like for facebook.com !search equal to somebody's name. So where is it, like how is it looking for it? Like maybe it is fetching from the database. So does that mean you will just randomly go and run SQL map? No, you'll get blocked. You'll understand what is happening over there. You'll slowly and steadily understand. Start from the some vulnerable machines and you'll get an idea. You cannot just start running any kind of tool against any application. You should not be, unless you're aware of what is happening over there. Again, is my input field is doing a function call. Suppose if you have done DVWA, there is a section for command injection. Why is it happening? Why am I able to write a semicolon ls and it is giving me all the information? Why? Because it seems that it is using some kind of function which is making a call. It's a system function that is being used over there, of course. That is why. This is the reason why am I not able to perform command injection over these examples, but over here. This is the reason. I'm talking about a very basic thing, but this is very important for the beginners, for people who are unaware. You're not supposed to be a script kiddie. You can be a script kiddie in the beginning. It's fine, but you have to learn. You have to come out of it. You know, the first 5-6 months of internship or as a fresher, you do things like this, but then you should be questioning yourself, like, why am I doing it? And there are many more. As I said, there are many more. Ask yourself why. If you are putting a single code in the end of a URL, why are you doing this? Why are you achieving? What are you achieving? And if the server is responding differently or weirdly, why is it behaving like that? Google, find what is happening. Ask your seniors if you are not able to understand. But why are you doing it? Keep questioning yourself. You have been given a mobile application. You have just connected it to the verb suite, and you are again fetching the request and seeing the response. You're seeing how everything functions, but again you see a weird kind of functionality. Or if you see, again I'll give you another example over here. Like suppose here is the URL example.com !id equal to 1. What happens if you put id equal to? So if it is an APK file and if you change the number, what is happening? Is it giving any different kind of data? What is it giving? Again, based on the example, again, based on the application, based on the application, your vulnerability, there might be a vulnerability, there may not be a vulnerability. If you are an admin and you have the privilege to see everyone's account, and if it is vulnerable to IDOR, say, then if you already have permission to view others' account, then it is not a vulnerability. But if you're a normal user and you can see other people's accounts, then it is right. Again, it comes under the context. What are you doing? Why are you doing? Is it actually working the way it is supposed to be? How differently it is working? What am I supposed to, what kind of payloads or characters I should be putting? Mostly you'll start with putting some characters. You should not be putting payloads directly. Is it blocking my payload? If it is is it blocking my request? Is it blocking any kind of invalid request that I might be sending? And if it is doing, then what might be the case? Enumerate more. The more you enumerate, the more you'll understand, and the more easier it will be to find a vulnerability. And when you'll find that vulnerability, it will be easier for you to make the developer understand or your client understand that what the fault is. Maybe you don't have to tell them what the mitigation should be, but if the developer understands that this is the reason why it happened, they themselves would understand. If they're smart enough, they would understand that what they have to do, of course. So what did we learn? That understanding the responsibility of a security researcher. We understood why are we securing. That is important. Second thing that we understood what our approach should be. And another thing that I did not mention in the slides, but I kept on talking about it, is the sense of responsibility that you should be having. And this is for every beginner. And it is for every individual over there who is into cybersecurity and is doing something, doing bug hunting, or is in company or have a startup and doing anything that they want to related to cybersecurity. They should be having that sense of responsibility. Another thing, the term hacking may sound cool, but it is not. Your aim is to secure. You are performing these steps, you're finding the vulnerability, you're performing account takeover to let the individual, the client know that there is a problem in your application. Please secure it. You have to use your technical strengths that you have, like the technical knowledge that you have, to help the individual to secure their data, because there are many bad people out there who are hacking the data, they're hacking accounts, and then they're revealing data. You just are helping. There is a very big thing that you are doing. You're helping people to secure their data. You're helping them to maintain their privacy. Okay, the three things that we talked about, the CIA triad, why are we doing security, is you're helping them out to perform that, to do that. So that is important. If you not just using the term I am a hacker and you don't know what you're doing, you're just doing bug hunting and you can't even explain it to the client like what the problem is. You just found accesses using an intruder or something, that does not make it look cool. You'll have to make the person understand that this is the payload. Maybe the alert script did not work. The payload that worked was on mouse over. You have to explain it to him why it worked. I mean, to the developer. You need to know that so that you can explain it to the client, because you have to be responsible. You're working as a responsible security researcher or consultant, even as bug bounty hunters. You are telling the people that please secure it. This is the vulnerability that I have found. This is the reason why I have found. Just don't keep on adding payloads and see how the response is. That is not at all cool. And then calling it as hacking is not at all cool. Another, we must analyze properly before looking for any vulnerability in any application. That is, enumerate properly. What is happening? Why is it happening? Question yourself. What is happening? Why is it happening? And how is it happening? Once you start answering these questions, or if you start looking for these answers, you never know, you'll start finding much interesting bugs, much interesting vulnerabilities. And then that is the cool thing that you have done. Understanding with proper technical things that you have done, and then you are crafting your own payload, and then telling the client responsibly that this is what has happened, and this is how is it happening, and this is how you have to secure it. If you have any questions, you can contact me via my Twitter account, freak_prep, or through my LinkedIn. Otherwise, I have this URL also of about.me. I have other social media handles over there. You can contact me from there as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Shruti. It was really an informative session. Like people who are aspiring to be in cyber, they really get to know like, okay, this is the perspective. Like right now I see people want to get into cyber and their first question is, can we do certifications? Can we do this? And my response most of the time is first learn the basics. So these are like the ABCD. You should know because otherwise, once in reality, you'll get to know that you have to do this and inside you feel like I don't want to do this. Perhaps your interest may change again because cyber may look very fancy, may look very
Exactly.
alluring, but at the same time, like I have seen like a lot of people who are in the very early stage, they really want to know the tools, they want to play with the tools. And what do you want to say to them? Like, are tools really easy? Like, any person would be given the tool. But what I have experienced is you can teach them few steps, and then it's like similar to what you just explained and experienced. That when you'll ask them that why are you clicking on this button? Why are you clicking on this dashboard? Why are you opening this? So they will be like, these are all the steps we follow every day. Seriously, and this is my personal experience because when I was studying we had certification and we had a really good instructor who took all our questions. But if we would have not asked these questions like why we are following so and so steps, it would have become just like some procedure that you're doing but you don't know the meaning behind it. So it's crazy, but most of the people who are not aware about how security actually works, who think it's completely different, it's alien, it's a new science, and they think most of the time it works on tools because every domain has respective tools going on. Sometimes they confuse also themselves. Like I have students, they ask me questions like, if we are using this domain and this tool, why another domain exists, why we are using tools? So then defense in depth comes into picture, why we need tools. But the most important fact is at the early stage of cybersecurity learning, what I feel, and really after this amazing presentation, that first learn basic before getting your hands on into tools. Try to understand what you are doing. Like you mentioned, like SQL injection very nicely, that if you are thinking that I'll perform, for example, if there is a site, it's your work, you have to check there, you have to test SQL injection, and you don't know what are the prerequisites to check, and you're just adding payloads and you're saying that it's not happening. First try to understand if it will happen or not, if there is a database actually or not. So this is so good, like seriously. So yeah,
Thank you.
any concluding points you want to add, especially to the audience who is new, and another to the audience who is working, who are like 1 year, 2 year old in security, maybe 3, 4 years, but still they are struggling because somehow they miss this art of knowing why we are securing data. So any conclusion?
One thing that I would like to add is, as I have already mentioned in my slide, that hacking is not cool. And the second thing, if you are having some experience, then scaring people with the little knowledge that you are having that you can do this, that is not cool as well. So
Yeah.
people should be, the same thing, that you have to answer the questions. They have to ask questions to themselves and then try to answer. Even if they're telling this to others, they should be explaining it in such a way that people should feel happy about it, that the data is getting secured. It should not be like, oh my God, they can hack my data. It
Yeah.
should be like, oh, they are working on securing our data. It
Right.
should be like that.
Right. Now, this was really good. Like before, even we discuss any domain and start teaching people. For example, any domain, we have like I think 10+ domains. Like some are non-tech, some are really tech, some are middle tech in cybersecurity. But the most important reason is why. Like sometimes people go through all the process. Sometimes they might hit and clear certifications online. But at the end of the day, that certification does not matter if you don't know the basics. And
Exactly.
people in current situation, like one while they want to move, like this is human nature, that they want to immediately transition. They want to know like very fastly, very quickly. And like I even really feel this, just spend much time in your foundations and
Exactly.
everything will fall in place. Every tool will work if you know what's the reason of using that tool. Why we are like, I like every scanning tool, even vulnerability scanning tool, it requires configuration. And you should be knowing what you are configuring. If you do not know what you are configuring, then again at the end of the day, for example, even if you want to switch job and a question is asked from the interviewer side, that what are the following fields which you put in several scans, what are the targets, what is the configuration, and you would be like, I just like, you would give an example of your past, but if he will tweak the situation, you will not be able to answer because you just know those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, but not the reason. If you might have known the reason, you would have actually able to at least answer it like more than 50%. At least he'll get to know this person knows basics, even if he's not able to tell me the advanced configuration or maybe the situation I'm asking. But I feel this is something because in my first interview, when I was like really new and I was switching, so the first hit was, it was a like it took a backseat. I took a backseat after that because I gave the interview based on steps. And when the interviewer asked me answers around it, because I didn't know anything around it, so I was like, okay. And the next thing was I was rejected, of course. But that was the place when I started learning, like, no, I want to know in depth now. Anybody can ask me anything, and this is such a foolishness that I am running a tool and I don't know what are the backgrounds running behind it. And that was the time, like in my office, we not only were doing our work, we started an environment where we actually shared knowledge, told each other like, okay, what is the workflow behind a tool. And that's how like everybody was able to move forward in their life, maybe in the same company or maybe they were able to switch. But I think that was the changing point. Like all of us in my team, we experienced in our first interview, we were like, okay, there is so much out of our company's work and we just know these 4 5 steps. So yeah, this is commendable, this idea. Like, to everyone in the audience, I would say it was Shruti's idea because we were planning to take up a session on a specific domain, but she had some experience with few people through which she understood like, okay, in the audience, somehow when she interact with a lot of people, she had this experience that people want to move, or people who are already there, they do not know what is like, why are we securing, what are various vulnerabilities, how to actually exploit them when we are testing, not attacking, testing, when we are testing vulnerabilities. So how to find out vulnerabilities. So thank you so much, Shruti. I will definitely call you next time also. This was so amazing. Seriously,
Thank you.
for the ABCD of cyber. Thank you so much.
Thank you.